December the 1st, and it is time for me to start my December reading vlog because I just finished my first book of the month, which turned out to be Heartless by Marissa Meyer. But if you want to know what it looks like in store, this is the actual cover. So my thoughts on this book is that it was very much enchanting and fascinating. This is a young adult retelling of Alice in Wonderland as well as Alice Through the Looking Glass. The main character goes through quite an intriguing journey, so that in the end I was like, what is happening? But it all made sense. I will say that this is the beginning of a series, and I didn't know that when I started reading, and I am kind of fed up with young adult literature always having to be published in series, because I prefer standalones, and I thought that was what I got with this one, but apparently not. But I still really liked it, and I ended up giving this book, my first book of the month of December, 4 out of 5 stars. Now I just have to figure out which book to read next, and I have a few of my most recent acquirements right here. I'm very hooked on this one, so this might be my next read, or maybe this one, which deals with family life. I have now finished this book, Truly Madly Guilty by Liane Moriarty, and it was a really good novel. I have never read anything by this author prior to reading this novel, so I had no expectations other than I'd heard that it was supposed to be really good, and it really was, because this book has such lively characters and it has a sense of details which I seldom encounter in fiction, and the plot is very interesting as well because it is revolving around something tragic that happened 2 months earlier, and then we get hints and bits of this tragic day throughout the novel. Of course, that creates tension. It's a book about family and guilt and relationships, and it's just a really fantastic read. I was so impressed, and I'm definitely going to read more by this author. So yeah, needless to say, I rated this book 5 out of 5 stars. Do you remember when I talked about in my last reading vlog that December was hopefully going to be much more relaxing and less hectic? Well, that didn't happen. We are now halfway through December, and I finished my 3rd book of the month, which turned out to be my Aunt Tyler book. I like to read one book from her each month, and this one is the EMeter Marriage, which I really liked. I mean, I did give it 4 out of 5 stars, but I still really liked it, because it deals with a marriage that probably shouldn't have happened. These two people, they meet just before the man has to go to join the World War II, and then they fall in love and they get married way too quickly, so that this book follows their life as a married couple, and it follows how their marriage is kind of a disaster and how it just shouldn't have happened at all. So each chapter is taking place about some years later, and it's very progressive in a way that it's not your typical romantic story. It's more about what can go wrong. I really like that about it. So yeah, basically I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars, and yeah, that's it for now. I have now read, let me get into the light. I have now read Jane Steele by Lindsay Fay, which is, anyway, here is Zeus, which is a very popular book just because this one was published this year, and it is based on the classic story of Jane Eyre, which I absolutely love. So I was interested to read this one. Now, in this one we have a protagonist who is a murderer, but her life very much reflects the life of Jane Eyre. I will say that the beginning of the book was the strongest, but the rest of the book became rather weak in my eyes because it turned into a mystery novel, which was okay, but the thing is that the mystery that it all revolved around wasn't that interesting. And also this book comes with a lot of background information, a lot of explanations, which drag on for pages and pages, and I wasn't a huge fan of those. I still think that this idea of creating a protagonist who is a murderer, did I mention that? She is a murderer, and who is based on Jane Eyre, is a really good idea. So in the end, because of the strong beginning and the very great idea, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. So I'm going to a Christmas party today, and this is my dress, which I feel is very Christmassy and I love it so much. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about this party and my dress. I'm here to talk about the next book that I have finished, and that is Searching for Caleb by Anne Tyler. I actually read 2 books by Anne Tyler this month just because I was in the mood for it, and this one was not her strongest work, but I would still recommend it. Basically, this one deals with Caleb, who has been lost for 60 years basically, and his family has been searching for him, but they haven't been able to find him. So it deals with this family. We both get to hear about the brothers' search for Caleb, but also the family and how the members grew up and what they are all about. But as I said, it's not Anne Tyler's strongest work, so I ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars. And also I would like to show you some books that I have planned to read this Christmas. Basically, my Christmas vacation starts today, and these are the books I would love to get to in the next 2 weeks. I don't know if it will be accomplishable, but I will do my best to read all of them. Today is December the 22nd, and about 6 hours ago my sister gave birth to the most beautiful baby boy. So obviously I feel very happy and very elated, and I can't wait to meet him and get to see him in person. Furthermore, I've also finished yet another book since I last spoke to you, and that is this beauty, The Two-Family House by Linda Cohen Loigman, which was almost perfect, but not quite. Basically, this is a book about one house in Brooklyn. However, 2 families live in this house, they know each other, and the 2 mothers also happen to give birth to 2 babies on the same day. At least 1 baby each, if you understand what I mean. So actually this book was quite appropriate for my life right now, since I couldn't help but think about my own sister. So this book was compelling in a way that made me read it in about 24 hours. The only fault that I found with this novel is the fact that the author went for the obvious twist, which I saw coming from the beginning, and I feel like this novel, which was otherwise so perfect, would have been even more special if she hadn't gone for that obvious twist. So all in all, I love this book. I ended up giving it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Also, I just have enough time to go to the post office right now and fetch some books which are waiting for me. And I also have time to actually film an unboxing of those books, which I plan on doing. So by the time you see this vlog, this unboxing video will already have gone up, and you will already have seen the books I'm about to fetch. And after that, I can finally go and see my new adorable nephew. Here we have the books, and Zeus is eagerly waiting for me to open them so that he can get into the boxes. So today is December the 24th, and it is Christmas here in Denmark. Wow, it's very bright in here. Tonight I'm going to celebrate it with my family, but before I leave, Zeus is very interested in the camera. Anyway, before I leave, I would like to talk about Vinegar Girl by Anne Tyler. It turns out I've now read 3 books by Anne Tyler this month. I don't know what has been happening, but I've been enjoying them. This one is a retelling of The Taming of the Shrew by Shakespeare. It is part of a series of books called Hogarth series, which basically comes out with a book now and then, which is a retelling of one of Shakespeare's plays. This book definitely needs the play in order to be understood, because there is something off with the characters and the pacing, but it was still a pretty nice story. I read someone commenting on my review on Goodreads that she read this book without knowing it was a retelling, and she had no idea what was happening, and I completely get why that is. So definitely check out the synopsis of the play if you plan on reading this book. I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. I now have 3 books left on my holidays TBR. I'm currently reading this one, but I think that I'm actually going to exchange this pretty big book, which I'm not really in the mood for these days, for a book that is going to be very wintry. I think The Gustav Sonata by Rose Tremaine. So these 2 are on my immediate holidays TBR list. And I also have to add to my TBR for this holiday Anne Patchett's book, which I received, I think it was yesterday, and I just am so eager to read it. So a bit of a change up, but I'm all good now. I need to talk about a book which I had very high expectations for, and my expectations weren't quite met. I'm talking about my first book by Jodi Picoult, which is called Small Great Things. This one deals with a newborn baby whose parents are white supremacists, so they hate black people. And then the nurse of this baby is actually black, so she's being prohibited from taking care of the baby, and then things ensue. Now, I did not know what to expect from the story, but once I got started, it was very clear what it was going to be about and what the moral of it was going to be. The moral is underlined times and times again by the author through symbolism or through explicit explanations, and I don't like it when that happens, because I want to be able to read my books and find out what it's all about by myself. And also, it's a very long novel. I think it could have been shortened by maybe 200 pages and still be an understandable story. So I did find quite some faults with this book. I had to skim read the last 100 pages just because it was about the same thing. Like, I can't explain what it's about, but I just couldn't take it anymore. Even though this deals with a very important topic which we need to know about, I didn't feel like the book in itself was very impactful, so I ended up giving it 2, maybe 2.5 out of 5 stars. I have finished what I believe might be the last book of the year, and that is Commonwealth by Anne Patchett. I was so eager to read this novel because it seemed intriguing to me, and I just got my hands on it, so I was, as I said, anticipating a lot from this book. Having read it now, I am pleased to say that I adored it as much as I was hoping for. This was a 5-star read for me, and it's such a shame that I didn't manage to include it on my favorites list video that I did some days ago, because this book should have been on that list. What makes this novel so great is the fact that it deals with different families, but in particular it starts out with this event that takes place at a party in which 2 married people find each other and start making out. And of course that makes some repercussions in their lives, but the thing about this novel is that it is so cleverly written, and it must have been such a hard book to write, because it starts at the beginning, and then the second chapter is actually the end of the book, and then it goes back and forth in time. And as I said, it must have been so hard to write this, because you have to grab the attention of the reader while giving them the ending. I found it so fascinating, and I definitely recommend it. Please check it out, Commonwealth by Anne Patchett. This reading vlog is going to be super long, and I apologize for that in advance, but I actually managed to finish yet another book on my Kindle, and that is The Circle by Dave Eggers. And I'm so happy that I managed to read this one as well in 2016, because it turned out to become so much to say. It turned out to become one of the most impactful and disturbing reads I have ever read. This one is a modern retelling of 1984 by George Orwell. It deals with May, who is hired in this company that makes use of the internet and makes sure to use the internet to create a community between everyone in the world and make life more effective for everyone in the world. While 1984 by George Orwell was certainly disturbing, this one is disturbing on a whole nother level, because it becomes closer to our world today and therefore even more realistic. I was so scared while reading, but also intrigued, because it was interesting to see where this was going, even though it wasn't good. It wasn't going anywhere brilliant. So anyway, I love this book, and needless to say, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars.